There he is, movie star Leonardo DiCaprio, as a new report finds that DiCaprio's nonprofit dished out grants to dark money groups, which then funneled funds to a law firm heading up nuisance lawsuits against oil companies. Now, the climate litigation and DiCaprio's arrangement specifically raises a whole host of legal and ethical concerns, but hypocrisy and bad optics are nothing new for this climate activist, because while DiCaprio and others, they preach a low-carbon, climate-friendly lifestyle, their actions tells a very different story. Going back years, DiCaprio, the likes of John Kerry, others jet-setting on their fancy private planes while telling everyone else they got to cut back. For example, you might remember the story from New Year's, back when DiCaprio actually celebrated 2 New Year's Eves in 1 year. One in Australia, one in Vegas. And he's been flying private consistently years in and years out. And by the way, I don't have a problem with it. But stop lecturing us. Why is it, there's always one rule for the far left elite and one rule for the rest of us? Here with Reaction, outnumbered co-host Kayleigh McEnany, along with former Trump Treasury official Monica Crowley. Kayleigh, I look at this. He also, we found out this year, was seen vacationing on a 315-foot super yacht, which reportedly produces as much carbon from sailing 7 miles as the average car does in a year. He flew from Miami to New York and back in a single day. He was hosting a fundraiser with Sean Penn. Then, of course, we have the big New Year's Eve extravaganza. When he did finally fly commercial to attend a climate summit in Scotland last year, it made headlines. So, and I can keep going. I have a lot more examples of Leonardo's hypocrisy. How is it, how do they rationalize this in their minds? They're funding this while they're living this lifestyle.
And as they're saying, direct quote from Leonardo DiCaprio, that climate change is the most urgent threat facing our entire species. That is quite a claim. That's a superlative, suggesting climate change is going to essentially kill us all. It's the most urgent threat. It reminds me of what leftists do through all of time, and the late, great Rush Limbaugh always exposed it. Remember, he said, Ted Danson in 1988 said, in 10 years, the oceans are going to rise, we'll all be gone. I'm paraphrasing. That didn't happen because 1998 rolled around and we're here. And then Al Gore, of course, said January 27, 2006, that we were 10 years away from climate change irreparably causing harm and destroying us all. And Rush Limbaugh at the top of his page put a climate clock for 10 years. And then 2016 rolled around and we were still here to tell the story. And that was the year President Trump became president. So it's just interesting, the hyperbolic claims that are then butted up against absolute and complete hypocrisy. But would you expect anything more from the Hollywood elites? I don't.
Monica, maybe my favorite is when he flew from France to New York City on a private jet to accept an environmental award before reappearing back in France the next day. And simply said he hitched a ride with the private jet owner who happened to be making the same trip. That's a nice rationale if you can get away with it.
Yeah, and of course they do get away with it because they all have the protection of the press, which never questions or investigates any of this. Sean and Kayleigh, we talk a lot about hypocrisy, and of course this behavior is hypocritical, but the left doesn't really care at all about being called hypocrites. They don't care about the charge of hypocrisy, again, because they're a protected class, but moreover, this is about hierarchy. This is about the political and cultural ruling class in the West, in the United States, taking full advantage of all of the privileges afforded to them while wanting to deny those to you. So while they're jetting around the world and on their super yachts and enjoying life, they at the same time want to restrict your mobility, your ability to drive a combustion engine car where you want, when you want, your ability to fly wherever you want, when you want. So for them, this is about, yes, there is some top line concern about climate change and about the environment for them, for sure. But what it's really all about, guys, is that the energy sector overall, fossil fuels overall, is really the biggest lever available to them to re-engineer the entire capitalist system, the entire free market system. So that's why they constantly attack it while at the same time taking full advantage of it.
Both of you dead on the money. Great calls. Kayleigh McEnany, thank you.